Ryan Chambers of Starcastic Remarks joins the show to talk some Stars off-season, including the start of the Glen Gulutzan era and other big needs for the upcoming season.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Today, we have a special guest. It is Ryan Chambers of Starcastic Remarks, a friend of the show. It's been a few months, my friend. How's the offseason treating you so far?
I'm bored.
I think we all are.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. I forgot to mention this to you before we even started recording. I got the hockey itch so bad that I actually started playing hockey again for the first time in like 20 years.
Hell yeah.
So,
You got into an adult league?
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I'm starting slow. So I did some adult hockey academy stuff. And I got into some I-League, which for those of you that don't know what that is, that's just instructional league. So it's basically like a scrimmage for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to join. We're going to start with E-League first off.
All right.
I'm not jumping into anything crazy here. So, but I've loved it. It's been so much fun, and I've missed hockey. So that's what I do when there's no hockey. I just fill it with more hockey.
I love it. Well, I will speak for everybody here on Locked On Stars. We wish you the best of luck. I remember growing up going to games, watching some I-League games that my dad was involved in. My dad used to play like in a C League when he was a bit younger, and then as he got older, he kind of was dropping down some levels. And I went to many of I-League games at the old Plano rink at 12 o'clock at night. And it was some of the best times. I used to get one of my neighbors to come along and just spend some nights in the rink. And of course the boys were boozing after games and stuff. So a good time. And I'm sure it's where I got most of my vocab, which isn't very good for those of you that aren't in a hockey locker room every other day like I was growing up. But we're going to discuss.
Let's just say it's not black and white. It's very colorful language. Let's just say that.
Oh yes, it certainly is. It certainly is. But we got a lot of stuff to really to kind of get to here today, since it's been a couple months. We got Glen Gulutzan, new head coach, and plenty of content that I want to hear your thoughts on, since we haven't had you on a bit. But let's begin with Glen Gulutzan a bit. What'd you take away from his opening press conference? And I guess, do you foresee any changes, or what are you hoping to see with a new head coach and a new perspective this upcoming season?
Well, first off, I got to say he did his job. He won the press conference. Yeah. I know everyone's saying that, but that's what you have to do. That's your first step. You get everyone on your side. And the people that were a little kind of iffy about him coming back, and they were obviously biased because it was something that happened 12 years ago. It was not a good situation. The Stars were in bankruptcy. I think at that point they were owned by the league, or by somebody else. They weren't even owned by Tom Gullardi. It was just terrible. So you got to give him a little bit of slack. Some people didn't, and then they heard the press conference and they were like, "Okay, now we understand." Like he said everything right, and everyone jumped obviously to the 1% thing. That was one of the big things that he talked about, is that every game, every time they have an opportunity, you up that physicality by 1%. And that was awesome to hear. And I know a lot of Stars fans were extremely excited to hear about that, because I think that was something that went far and beyond what a lot of people were expecting. It was a lot of fun to see that. In terms of other things, I thought it was really interesting to hear some of the holes that are missing on this roster, right? Like there are plenty of people, like everyone's looking at like the left wing side on the second line and the number 4 defenseman. And he offered some solutions to that. He's just like, maybe Sam Steele can get in there and play on the left-hand side. Maybe we see blah, 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 blah. And so he left it up to the chance. But that is the biggest thing that I took away from that press conference, is that he won it, and that we're going to see more of that physicality. And what makes it even more interesting is for the players that are not used to that type of physicality, like the Matt Duchene's of the world, and to a certain extent, Tyler Seguin, he doesn't really show that much like he used to. But like, what does that do for those players' games? Are they actually going to get into it? Because like when we saw Robo the last couple of years, he's had really good playoffs. And it's because he started showing that side of his game, and he was able to get into that physical element of his game. And we were seeing big hits from him in the playoffs 2 years ago. We were like, what the heck? Where did this Jason Robertson come from? So that's the biggest thing, is the physicality. How is that going to affect all of those top players for the Dallas Stars? Is it going to force them to change? Are they just going to continue with the same idea? Or are we going to see some of those players kind of buy into this new element that we're going to see from a Glen Gulutzan led team? That was the biggest aspect. But one other thing that I really liked is it seemed, what's the right word? I can't think of it right now. Collaborative. That's the word. It seemed like a more collaborative approach for Glen Gulutzan, who, yes, is younger than Pete DeBoer, but not by much. But it seemed like he was very open to any ideas. And it's very similar to how Tom Goulardi runs the team. Tom Goulardi hires people, and he normally lets them do their job. Normally. That sounds like what Glen Gulutzan is going to do with Neil Graham, and let him, hang loose for a little while, let him figure it out with the power play. He's going to let Elaine Nasruddin, maybe they're going to change something up on the defensive side. And I know Luds from DLS really wants to change that whole man-on-man thing.
Yeah.
That's something that I was really excited to hear about, is physical, collaborative, if you're looking for two particular words from that press conference.
Yeah, the physicality aspect is interesting, because really I'm curious on what's sort of the game plan. What's the approach on how to be more physical? And I'm going to ask you this question because it was posed to me, and I really wasn't ready for it. And I sort of just had to give an answer right off the hop. And I was asked, after I mentioned the physicality part, the follow-up question, which was a good one: do they have the personnel to be physical, to be more physical? And my initial gut reaction is no, is they don't have the personnel to do that. But as I started to chew on it a bit more, I think it can be more of a mindset. It's something that they don't have to play out of their comfort zone or even play out of their game. I just think it's the way they go about their business has to change a bit more. And maybe it's the way they forecheck. I know he mentioned that in his press conference. They're going to change the way they forecheck. Maybe that's where some of the physicality can come from. So I'm curious, what would be your answer to the question? Like, do they have the personnel to be more physical, or where do you kind of line that up? Because it's always a marriage, right, of being physical and still keeping that skill, which we know the Stars have plenty of.
But the biggest thing is that, like, normally when you look at players, let's do it this way. When you have a coach, you normally try to get the players that he wants, right? You normally try to you get players that match his style, and those players normally excel in that aspect or whatever, right? Well, I think in this case, it's kind of the opposite, right? So I think what is going on now is that the players are going to have to play the style that Glen Gulutzan wants to play.
Yeah.
And in terms of, do they have the players, like the personnel? I would say yes and no. And here's what I mean by that. NHL players are professionals. They're all coachable. That's why they're at the level they're at, is because they are coachable. So I think that is something that they all can learn. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And now it sucks when you have to get rid of, especially Mason Marchment. I would have absolutely loved to see Mason Marchment in a Glen Gulutzan system, and with all this physicality talk and everything. But I do think that the Stars do have the players to be able to do that. and I also think that we're gonna go a little bit different in how they go about their business in terms of, maybe you don't just have a line of your best players and you're a top heavy team. Maybe you're looking more at duos, and you're having like a guy that's like an F1 that's just an energy guy on that, and he helps, get the puck in deep. He goes after the puck. He gives it to the other two, and the other two work their magic and get points for the Stars or whatever. Maybe that's the way they look at it. That's something that I could see them doing. So maybe like, for example, that second line, if Sam Steele is on that second line, I don't expect him to score like 20 or 30 goals or something like that.
Mhm.
If he scores 15, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
But his role on the team is not to be an offensive point getter. He is an energy guy. And if he can bring energy to both Duchesne and Seguin and force them to play that style that Glen Gulutzan wants, and kind of have them buy in a little bit and have them do a little bit outside of their comfort zone, then I think that goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And I think that even though that both of those players are old and especially with Seguin with all the injury issues that he's had, I think they can learn. Yeah. I mean, you would have to be insane and a little bit gullible to not think that they can play this style. Do they have the personnel in terms of Florida, like, and that physicality aspect?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. No.
Yeah.
But can this team learn that style or be able to do something like that? Absolutely. Yes. So that's where I'm coming from in terms of yes and no. They got to play a hybrid of between Pete DeBoer and then just straight out, like, gooseneck hockey like Minnesota has played in the last couple of years, like somewhere like a hybrid of the two. So, and speaking of the press conference, that was something else that he talked about. He's not going to come in here and completely change everything.
Yeah.
He's going to find things that match the systems that they used to play with Pete DeBoer, and he's going to find the strengths of the team, and he's going to work around the players to make that work, which is why I love, again, that word collaborative. It just seemed to come up a lot.
Plus, I would argue the fact, and I think you could argue the Stars are better suited to play maybe that style of hockey this season than they were last year, because what were the offseason acquisitions about? Physicality, Labushkin, Dumba. Well, look how those kind of turned out at the end of the day. It didn't really make the Stars any better. Now with Lundqvist, who we think is going to get a new lease on life under Gulutzan, and Bichel a full year, there's potential for the Stars to maybe grow in that aspect. And I loved how he sort of explained it too, where he mentioned it's about just kind of ramping up for the playoffs. That way they're ready. And maybe that's something the Stars really need. And I'm really fascinated to see how they operate under Glenn. And because, they weren't, when it's push came to shove, just felt like once they got to that third round, they just weren't ready. They were not prepared. And you can see that in really 3 years under DeBoer, like those elimination games, like they lost the game the first 10 minutes. It felt like, for the most part, they lost a handful of games in the first 10 minutes of a hockey game because they're just not prepared. And whether it's fair or not, that goes to the responsibility of the coach. We're going to ask Ryan his biggest needs for the Stars next season. Very generic. What do the Stars absolutely need if they are to get over the hump next season? We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel has the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been at the ballpark recently watching the Texas Rangers. It's always a little fun to sprinkle some money on the Rangers as well with FanDuel. They have new daily promotions, fun ways to bet. You can place a same game parlay, you can watch a bet right into the ninth inning. FanDuel makes it feel like you're a part of the action. So new to FanDuel, that's okay. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the Dallas Stars entering a fourth consecutive season following, or I should say third consecutive season following a Western Conference final exit. And what we do here on the pods, as always, Ryan, we're going to find the solutions. We have the answers, Ryan. So you let me know, what do the Dallas Stars need? What are some of the biggest needs, if you had to give a couple, that the Stars need from certain players? It could be special teams, whatever, to have another successful season here in 25-26.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to go with that. That is so generic. I'll go really broad first, and I'll paint it with a broad brush. I think they need to make the Stanley Cup final at the bare minimum. I think at this point that is a need, and I understand that like everybody is looking at this team and they're saying, how is this team any better than last year? Well, it's not, but the thing is that the way that it was going was not working, right? I mean, look at Toronto's situation. They kept bringing back the same players. They tried different coaches. It just didn't work. And until they were basically, their hands were forced with Marner getting traded to Vegas. I think this is the Stars' moment to do that. So that's a very broad brush in terms of need. From other standpoints, I think what they also need is they need to buy in quickly. You don't want to be a team, and everyone looks at American Thanksgiving in late November as like the deciding factor.
Yeah, the
like,
benchmark.
Yeah, exactly. Like the starting data point as to whether you're going to make the playoffs or not. Because I forgot what the statistic is, but it's very high.
Yeah,
is that if you're in a playoff spot by American Thanksgiving, more than likely you're going to make the playoffs. So I think they need to buy into the system very, very quickly. I don't know if I believe that's going to happen in terms of us see wins a whole lot, but they need to buy into it quickly, because if they don't and it falls off the cliff very, very quickly, then the Stars could be looking back and possibly barely missing the playoffs and being the first team out or something. And that would be absolutely terrible. I talked about this on our podcast, the last couple of things, and the last couple of weeks. And I mentioned two specific holes that I think the Stars have. And one of them I mentioned already, the left wing side on the second line. That's really important. I think that's a huge need. Someone needs to step up and fill that need. And then the other one is, who's the number 4 defenseman? I think that's another huge need, because the reason why a lot of fans are feeling a lot more uneasy about next season is because there's too many questions and not enough answers right now. We will see answers during the regular season. It just depends on who those answers are. And if the answers are better, then the Stars have a really good chance of being another Stanley Cup contending team. Like I can see that happening. Like, so for example, if you're looking at the number 4 D-man right now, most people would probably say that belongs to Bush, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's his spot, and he deserves it. He played very well last year, I thought, and especially considering that he's probably playing a little bit outside of where he should be and the money that he's being paid for it. He's giving a lot of good value to the Stars for that. Now, if he is still your number 4 defenseman by the end of the year, and one of Lundqvist or Bichsel has not stepped up and kind of forced that number 4 role from Lyubushkin, and they're now the number 4 guy, then that's where I would be a little bit more worried, is because you want to see one of those guys, and that's a huge need. One of those guys has to fill that number 4 role, in my opinion, because that if Lundqvist can play like he did with Esa Lindell last year for that brief period of time that he was together, and how well they played together, then I feel a whole lot better about that. And then that slots Lyubushkin down into probably where you want him, which is the number 5, number 6 slot. Or even if it's Bichsel, and Bichsel has to play on the left side and it forces Lindell or Harley to play on the right side. Like, one of those, that's a huge need, I feel like, for the Stars. And then I talked about it briefly too on the left-hand side. The need for someone to step up on that left-hand side is enormous. And it could come in so many different ways. It seems like right now Sam Steele is the most likely candidate to kind of step up there, because Jamie Benn is not the same guy that he was. But maybe again, that seems like another thing where Jamie Benn, that's just where he's going to start. He's going to start on the second line just because he's the second best left winger and they don't really have a better option. But maybe we see Wyatt Johnston play center and then it forces Duchesne to the left, or maybe Johnson plays on the left-hand side. There are a couple of needs there that are extremely, extremely important. And those two in particular, number 2 left winger on the second line. Yeah. And then who's your number 4 defenseman? And then obviously buy into the system that Glen Gulutzan is trying to concoct right now. And even if you don't win a whole lot of games right off the bat, because I don't think they're going to, I don't think they're going to explode off the bat like Winnipeg did this past year. Maybe they do. That'd be great.
Yeah, I just don't see tough that stretch too. They have a tough opening to end game.
You read my mind. And that was going to be the other thing I was going to mention. Is that when you look at their schedule for the first month or so, it's not just back to back. It's not just the amount of games they're playing in a short period of time. It's also who they're playing. There's a lot of tough teams early off the bat. So again, those are the 3 biggest needs I think that the Stars have got. Glenn, buy in, number 2 left winger, number 4 defenseman.
Yeah, and the questions on the blue line, again, it's the same questions we had heading into last year. It was Miro, and we thought Dumba could play with him. How naive we were after the preseason there. At least I was a bit. I was too bullish on Dumba. And it was Harley Labushkin. And then it was, then you had Lindell, you kind of thought could be maybe on that third pair, Lundqvist, whoever you kind of want to throw there. It's like the same old song and dance again with the Stars blue line, and hopefully get some answers. And Bishop looked good. That's a sort of a silver lining. He looked good last year, and now a full training camp under his belt again. What was he going to look like? Can he make a positive jump? And so with Nils Lundqvist, and you mentioned Johnston, I'm fascinated to see if they move him to wing, whether they play him with Hintz and Rantanen, or they move him to right wing playing with Hintz and Robertson. I would be curious to see Dutchy play alongside Rantanen and Sagan. I think that could be fascinating. Or maybe not Sagan since he's right wing, but Rantanen and Duchesne, and maybe it's Ben, maybe it's a Steele. I don't know. Either way, somebody's going to have to move, it feels like, just to give Dallas some depth. Although I would love to see Johnson stay at center. I don't know if that's going to be the best case scenario or going to benefit the Stars the most. But it feels like Glenn, as you mentioned, is going to be collaborative about this. He's not going to be stubborn with the lines. So the first, 2 dozen games, we may see a lot of line juggling just to try to figure some things out. Or maybe they're able to grind some of that out early in training camp and they know what they want going in, and they can hit the ground running. That would be best case scenario. But there are going to be some growing pains. And as you mentioned, like that's scheduled. They got some quality teams there, which may be good for them. Like you got to buck up and you got to bank some points early. That way, if you do go through some growing pains during the season, it'll be fascinating. We're going to get to Jason Robertson. I'm going to ask Ryan's expectations for a full season of Mikko Rantanen and a bit more as we close out today's show. So I'll ask you this to kick off this next segment. We get a full season of Mikko Rantanen, which is going to be a ton of fun, and I think something that can get lost a bit as well throughout this offseason and some of the moves the Stars have made. You have a superstar at the top of your lineup that has proven time and time again he's an elite scorer in this league and an elite producer. So I guess give me some predictions. What do you predict Mikko Rantanen for next season? At 88 points this last year after kind of hopscotching around the U.S. for a couple of weeks. So what are you envisioning a full year Mikko Rantanen and sort of his usage as well with the Stars this upcoming season?
I think we're going to, and this is maybe a little bit too bullish or hot take-ish if you want to take it. He's gonna score over 40 goals. He's gonna have over 60 assists. He's gonna be over 100 points this next upcoming season.
I have him hovering 100. That's kind of where I'm feeling.
and because it almost feels like that has to be a necessity at this point. And yeah, I was about to say it's not fair, but at the same time, he got what he wanted. He's playing on a good team. He is the superstar of the team. He is the guy now. He's no longer the number 3 guy on the team. He's the number 1, and he got paid. He absolutely got paid, and he and by a significant margin. Like, they had not even gotten into the $10 million mark with anybody before in terms of cap hit, I should say. Obviously, Sagan has made 13 million 1 year or something like that. But he is going to have to be really, really good. And that's a lot of expectation to throw on a guy in his first full season. But man, when we saw what you did at the end of the regular season, after you started a little slow with the Stars, you started to pick it up. And then we saw what you did in the freaking playoffs, man. You had back-to-back hat tricks. You screwed your old team over and hat tricked them to death in 1 period. I don't understand. You have to expect a whole lot from a player like Mikko Rantanen. And he ran with it last season, and he ran with it in the playoffs, and he did it. He succeeded. And like you and I have both said, that the Stars only made the Western Conference Final because of those 2 players, because of him and Otter. That was it. And again, some contributions from other players, but he is going to be absolutely huge for the Dallas Stars next season. And that's where I see him at. I think he can hit 100 plus.
Him and Robo could be fireworks.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot there because we've talked so much about Robo, and we're going to get to it about him being traded and stuff. But just step back, guys. Stars fan, we have Robo is a pure goal scorer and Rantanen together. They could just pop off. It could be absolute fireworks with those 2, and then you add Hintz to that. I mean, there's a potential for that line to just go scorched earth. And we may be sitting here in November being like, it's the best line in hockey. That's a very capable conversation. I mean, they did it with a 35-year-old Joe Pavelski. Mm-hmm. You add Rance to the mix. That could be dangerous. And sometimes it's easy to lose track of that just because the roster looks a lot different. And of course it does because of the cap. Stars manipulated it. They had to make some moves. They had to create some cap room. But just remember, the Stars have 2 wingers in Rantanen and Robo at the respective positions are within the top 5. That's special, and we could watch something really, really special here in the next couple of months. And I think that has to be stated since we've talked about moving on from Robo, and we're going to talk about that now. You hear all the talk around him. I guess what would be your prediction for Robertson this upcoming? Where do you see it? Do you think he gets moved? Is it something that's maybe going to heat up more as a trade deadline approaches? Do you think he gets a deal done with Dallas? Where do you envision, I guess, the next year for Robo and company?
That's a really hard question, to be honest with you.
Yes, it's a lot. It really is a lot.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to look into the future, right? Gaze into your crystal ball and okay, if the Stars are top of the league and Robo is popping off, you're not trading him, period. That, I don't see that happening. But if you're obviously going to miss the playoffs or something like that, and you're not sure that he's going to re-sign with you, next season, even though he is an RFA, maybe you trade him when his value is highest, which would be at the trade deadline. But and that sounds crazy to me saying that. So I'm just going to say this right now. The Stars are not trading Jason Robertson. That's not happening. Okay. That is worst case scenario is they're not making the playoffs. They're in the dumpster diver and he's not wanting to resign. That's worst case scenario. I understand why they were looking at trading him because there was all the uncertainty around him. They didn't know if he was going to resign, which I think that's crazy because I think he loves it in Dallas. He really seems to like it. He's played well in Dallas. He is a very high character, high moral guy, which obviously Jim Nill loves those types of guys. That's why the Stars attract all of those type of players all the time. I just think it's insane. I think it's absolutely insane to think that he's going to be traded. And in terms of, his expectation this year, I don't expect 100 points because I think that one season he had 100 points was a career year, but every other year he's been around a point per game player.
Yeah.
That's my expectation of him.
That's
Yes.
like his floor.
Right. Yeah. So that's my expectation of him. And that's where I want to see him get at. And it also depends on who he plays with. So like, and what's so interesting about having him and Hintz and Rantanen together is that all three of those guys have different deficiencies and different strengths. Like Hintz is absolutely ridiculous. One of the fastest players in the NHL when he gets up on a gallop. Rantanen is one of the biggest, and he's very physical. He is a power forward, but at the same time also has the ability to snipe the puck and also can, show some speed as well. And then, Robertson, he has that deficiency of, his skating. Everyone talks about that, which I think that's overrated at this point. I think his skating has gotten tremendously better. But he doesn't have to be that guy. Maybe he can just use his hockey IQ to get in the right spot at the right time. Let Rantanen go in and do all the dumpster diver work in the corner. Let Hintz use his speed, and he just sits there and he's in the open spot at the right time. Like it seems to make sense, and I'm talking myself into it a lot, but but it makes me excited, and also the fact that Robo is coming off of an injury. Yeah, he had a very weird year, and the fact that he didn't get a chance to really rehab from a whole lot during the offseason. He started really, really ungodly slow. They announced the 4-nation rosters, and then he just went off. Just absolutely went off. And he looked like Robertson all the way until the last game of the season when he got hurt. And then he came back. It took him a couple of playoff games, a couple of weeks to get back in. And then he was the Stars' best player at the end of the playoff run. He was. So that's something that he's got to do is he's got to find a way to stay healthy this upcoming season.
He feels like he's going to be too valuable for Dallas as well, where it just would not make sense to move off of him, even at a trade deadline. Although you could really talk me into Robo for a top 4 defenseman. You could really do it, but you would also miss a guy that scores goals. Like he's an elite goal scorer. But to be fair, to push back there, if I had to play devil's advocate on myself, we haven't seen that a ton in the postseason. We've seen it in bursts. Unfortunately, it seems like it comes when the Stars are almost out of the hunt because it's been in the conference finals when it's like the Stars are down 2-0 or they're 3-1. And it's like, okay, like this is awesome, Robo, but we could have used this, a couple nights ago. That's hindsight as always, but he feels like he's gonna be too valuable for where the Stars want to go. That it doesn't, like you kind of mentioned, it just seems crazy. Why would they move off of him? But hey, it's a conversation to have. And, sometimes like if they feel like they can't get anywhere close to a deal, then they may have to do that. And I think you could argue they should do that. Otherwise you could let him go. But as well, he's an RFA and qualifying offer and all that stuff that also plays a role as well. So love to hear your thoughts on that as well. And I'm going to ask you your thoughts on this, and we'll kind of get out of here. But of course, USA Today article came out last Friday about the Stars monopolizing youth hockey. I did an episode on it on Monday, so everybody sort of knows where I stand on the issue and all that. But I'm curious to get somebody else's thoughts on kind of what you thought about it, and maybe where Dallas has gone wrong, where you would maybe defend Dallas in some issues or maybe not. So I'll kind of let you have the floor. I'd love to hear, get somebody else's perspective on it.
Just like with anything, I hate to put it this way, I apologize, but when you look at politics, it's the truth is normally somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. Almost always, like a good 80-90% of the time. And I actually hadn't gotten a chance to listen to your episode on that yet. So that'll be interesting if your opinion kind of matches mine. But the thing is, I think there was a lot of wrong done by several parties here. I think parents are being parents and they're just trying to look out for their kids.
Correct.
And they're doing the right thing and doing that. Did they go overboard a little bit? I don't know. Maybe. Where the Stars went wrong is they played the power move. I think that's where that was probably wrong.
Yeah.
But from a moral standpoint, I should say that from a moral standpoint, if I was in charge of the Children's Health Star Centers and stuff like that, I personally would not flex my muscles on that particular issue. But I also don't know maybe there's no coaches that want to come down to Dallas.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. And that's it's either them or no coaches, and you don't have a coach that's, that you want your kid to be at the level of or whatever. But at the same time, Dallas, I hate saying it this way because I don't agree with it, but it is their stuff. I mean,
yeah.
it's their property.
Yeah.
They can do what they want with
Yeah.
it. Do I agree with the way that they handled it? At least allegedly. No, that is absolutely not the way that I probably would have handled that situation. In terms of things getting expensive, I think that's just something that it's always been there. The hockey has always been an expensive sport. Are there loopholes with some of the teams being forced to pay for a hotel that's owned by Tom Glardy or something like that? Okay, yeah, but again, that's his prerogative. He owns it.
Yeah.
Is it necessarily right? Probably not. But I mean, would I do the same thing if it was me? I mean, it's my stuff. Yeah, I probably would do it. So it's just a tough situation to get into, especially when you talk about youth hockey like that, because and this one bad story that comes out kind of negates all of the good stuff that Dallas has done well. and they even came out and said that USA Hockey has commended them on how they've gone about building hockey down in a non-traditional market. And I mean, I'm using their product right now. It's because it's just the way it is. And they have done well with spreading the game of hockey.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah. And I mean,
it's just unfortunate that the story came out that way.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a lot of the similar sentiments, and if you do listen to it, I think you'll hear some of that. Like I said with Ice Time, I've lived in Minnesota, I've lived in Wisconsin. Like, people there have complained about prices of ice, and then those are markets where it's cool and all that, and I'm sure it's less expensive in an area like that, but people still complain about it because ice is expensive. Unfortunately, it's just what hockey is, and it's always going to be that way, whether we like it or not. I wish it was more like a soccer situation where it could just be easy, get a group of boys and you go out to a field. It's just not the case. It's really the weird, like, cracking down on criticism. I don't know, it just makes no sense to me. It doesn't feel like a win for Dallas to do that. And as you mentioned, I don't know if this isn't, I wouldn't even put this on the Stars. I just think it's some individuals that they have like this little ounce of power because they own the rink or they're running the rink, and be like, oh well, I can keep this person from coming back. And it's like, okay, cool.
Okay, dude.
Yeah, it's just weird. And then if this is true, the one that rubbed me wrong too is they needed to take over the Frisco high school team to reinstate those coaches.
Yeah.
And that's just like, it seems a bit shady to me. And I kind of brought up the point. My take is, whether they broke rules or not, it's the prerogative of the youth hockey team or the association. If they had parents and survey, they want to go a different direction, they can go that way. And it's not like they were just firing for no reason. From what it sounds like, they did not want to renew their contract. So their contract was up. If they want to move on from a head coach, that's their prerogative to do so. And it makes it really shady to me that the Stars would have to kind of take over operations and then reinstate these coaches. So it's like, oh, they didn't break any rules, but are they? Because it seems like it's just something weird that you felt the need to take over an operation and to reinstate these coaches. So what is it there? Because look, they could be an awesome coach. I'm not arguing that, but if I suck at my job, people get rid of me if they tell me I'm bad, or if someone doesn't want me to be the play-by-play guy, they can get rid of me without really, especially my contract stuff, whether they like me or not. That's just the way of the world. So it's just, And I grew up in these circles and community. I'll be honest, I'm kind of far away from it now. I'm 10 years removed of playing travel hockey in my life. But you grow up, and as I get farther away, it's crazy. Like when I hear from my dad, the amount of stuff I didn't know when I was a kid, kind of growing up, and now I do now from certain coaches I had, and all these stories that come out. Just because when I'm just there to play, I was trying to be the best hockey player possible. But my dad, of course, and parents, like, they're involved, and thankfully my dad was really invested. And you learn something, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that was happening while I was a child. And thankfully I was kept away from it. So I guess the parents did a decent job of that. But like, I've heard conversations, like some of the stuff that was brought up, and I'm like, this is not surprising at all. But also I made the point too, I think it's a hockey culture issue to some degree. It's not, I don't think this is just a North Texas problem. I think some of this is just hockey. You hear about all the time, coaches telling parents, your kid's not going to go anywhere if he doesn't take lessons with me, or I can, you hear it all the time. There's people, like, coaches won't advocate for you to certain scouts, or if you want to get to the next level because of something. Like, that's just politics. And that's kind of every sport. I don't think that's a hockey issue either way. And as you mentioned, it's just kind of like, it stinks. But that's kind of where it is. But yeah, I don't want to hash that out too much, but I kind of lived where you are. I'm just kind of in the middle. Like, I get it. And it stinks. But it would be nice if, the Stars can acknowledge some of it. And a lot of it, probably, I just think maybe some individuals, and they have to real look at like how they're going about it, because you want hockey to grow and you want it to be somewhere that is welcoming. And I know the Stars have made leaps and bounds in that effort, but they got to continue to do that. And I just also with hockey in Dallas, it's become actually pretty big. It's become prominent. Like, you get kids that move, like the Colin Potter, I think he was a top 5 draft pick. Like, he's from Michigan, I believe. He came down to play for the Dallas Stars Elite. Like, that's a story you hear all the time. Kids are coming down from Michigan and other, Boston, to come play for the Elite. Like, that's sort of a big deal to come do that, and they become, Division I prospects. Like, that's a big deal. And as that happens, I think you get some of the cast of characters, and sometimes they can take advantage of people that, maybe aren't as versed in the, hockey scene down here in Texas. But I could talk about this for hours, and we got to go. But
well, and then, to the Stars' credit though, and I don't know if maybe it's not to their credit, maybe they just got caught red-handed, and they're like, but they did get rid of. There was a story that came out earlier in the year, right, of the 2 guys that were kind of misusing their positions to kind of do some shady stuff. And to their credit, they did get rid of both of those guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know, again, if we should give them credit for that, because that was just like, oh, we got caught. Crap. Okay. Yeah. You're screwed. Get out. But at least from the outside, it looked like they did the right thing. So
yes,
it just, and I'll reiterate what you said too, is this is not just a North Texas thing. I bet you go to any other non-traditional hockey market, you go down to Tampa, you go to Florida, you go to Carolina, you go to Nashville, any place that doesn't have, 4 hockey rinks within 20 miles of each other, like Canada does, you're going to have issues. And it's just always going to be that way, unfortunately.
Alrighty, man. Great stuff. Oh, by the way, correction. Potter was from Minneapolis, so apologize for that. He's a Minneapolis
Come on,
guy. He's a Minnesota, which makes me like him even more. No offense to Michigan. Great hockey players there. But Minnesota always on top. Ryan, good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on for a bit. Always great to catch up with you. Hope everything's going well. I know you got kind of school right around the corner, so your life's going to be a bit busier, but I hope all well's with the family. And what's sort of upcoming with the Starcastic remarks? What's kind of the plan here for you guys, for the Chambers brothers? Well,
we're kind of taking it slow right now. We're just doing we're just doing a once a week kind of deal on Wednesday nights, typically around 9:30. We're kind of going through our way too early season predictions.
There we go.
And we're doing it a little different this year. We went back to last year and looked at how terrible our predictions were then.
Okay.
And then we're redoing them.
What was the worst one? What was the worst prediction? Did anybody hit either? I want to hear.
The worst one we had was Nashville, man. Oh,
Oh, well, yeah.
yeah.
I'm on that trade.
We didn't even get through everything we wanted to. We've gotten through the Central Division, and then we looked at, and then we made predictions for this upcoming season, and then we looked at our stuff from last year for the Pacific. That's all we've gotten through.
Okay.
But we're gonna finish that on our next episode, and we're gonna look at our Pacific Division rankings, and we're gonna do it for this upcoming season. Then we're gonna do the Eastern Conference as well. We'll see how long it takes us.
Okay.
And we've also got our Stars fan stories episodes that have been going.
I saw that.
There's going to be another one. There was one we had to skip a week for a reason, because I just been so ridiculously busy. I haven't gotten the chance to do any post-production on that. But they've been coming out on Tuesdays. It's been so much fun listening to some of these people. It's been really, really cool meeting Stars fans all from Scotland, Finland, Canada, Australia. Like it's been absolutely amazing.
Well, awesome, man. That's great stuff. Keep up the great work. Hey, everybody, be sure follow Starcaster Remarks, man. They're on Twitter. Make sure to follow their show. The Chambers brothers are kicking ass and taking aim these days, and they're a lot of fun to chat with. Ryan, thank you once again, man. Stars fans, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you on the next episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. So long, Stars fans.